Totem 2.0 is a project that I started to envision probably over a decade ago. I have been carving full-size totems from old growth for a long time, and access to the wood was starting to get more and more complicated. I was also thinking about my own traditional teachings around responsibility to future generations, and started to wonder if I should be carving old growth anymore. What do you want to see? Like, there's a couple of, can move this? What could I do differently? Because second growth trees are so much smaller. And eventually I sort of came up with this idea that I could make a pole that was like what's behind me now, where I would take beams of cedar and fit them together by tapering them. I think this is the first pole that I'm making this way. So I'm learning as I go, right? We sort of strap them to squeeze them together to keep them from bouncing around too much. I'm very careful when I talk about this project to say that I have no judgment for our artists who are carving old growth. The decision I made for myself isn't even actually not to carve old growth. It's just that I will only carve old growth for cultural purpose and for community. This is one solid piece of wood. So this carving is a welcome figure for the Sauk Nation. And so it fits into my rule of only making it for community or cultural purpose. Any work that I'm going to make for sort of the public market or for private sale will be made from second growth now. So I'm wary of bringing any kind of bad feelings with artists, because we're not the ones who led to the situation that we're in where old growth is so scarce. And if anybody has a right to carve old growth, First Nations people from the Northwest Coast do.
You kind of got to walk the walk. I mean, you can talk about sustainability and about saving the old growth, but unless you're making some kind of steps forward, you're kind of coming from a place of hypocrisy. So this is, it kind of is a little levity to the conscience. With the power tools, they're very aggressive, obviously, and you can't put the wood back on. So this is unlike anything else, and being a part of the process of working with Camosun and seeing it from the ground up, from kind of nuts and bolts to where it is now, and envisioning where it's going to be is almost wholesale different from any other totem project they worked on. When things come up, you just kind of got to work through it, and that's really stimulating. And this project in particular is just like a cornucopia of problems, but it does have this rooted nature in the art form. So there's that modern transition kind of feel to it. Forgiving, you know. I really appreciate red cedar. You can get second growth in a wider area. You don't have to go get old growth from a certain valley kind of thing. And there's a smaller area for old growth, so it can be accessible to people who only have access to second growth. And just that alone, I think, is a big part of it too. Carving, I think, is definitely has a lifespan on it, kind of like fossil fuels. Like, there's a limited resource of what we can use here for this. But if carving is your thing and totems are your thing, then this is another way to kind of extend that longevity of it, because the resource pool has been opened up.
I'll have a little drawing here that I can show you. That's the drawing I'm working from right there. You got an orca at the bottom with their eye, blowhole, dorsal fin. And this orca, its tail is in the body. So this relief shape, I can point it out to you. Every time I don't carve an old growth, I can imagine at least that I've left one standing.
He's more of a professor than a carver at this point, so I mean, it depends what he touched.
I usually try to schedule at least a year, maybe longer. If you ask people who are waiting for things for me to make, they'll tell you it takes longer than I think it takes.